Today I'm turning cake into one of the most iconic sneakers ever made, the Air Force One. By the end of this video, you will be questioning whether this is edible or wearable, so let's get into it. From sculpting the shape and carving every detail to recreating the stitching, sole, laces, and the signature swoosh, this cake is about to be pushing realism to the next level. Will it end up looking like a fresh pear straight out of the box, or will it scream cake? Hey, my name is Ronique, and as you can tell, I'm a hyper-realistic cake artist. First things first, we're going to start off by stacking and filling our cake. Once I was done with stacking and filling my cake, I did put my cake in the freezer for about 2 hours just to make sure it's nice and firm, and then we will start sculpting this bad boy. The reason I prefer to sculpt a frozen cake is because when I'm sculpting, the cake isn't breaking away, it's holding its shape. So try to do the same and it'll be much easier. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and help me get this video to 10,000 likes. Switching your template on the other side of the cake is ideal when it comes to making sure that both sides are pretty much even and has the same shape. So right now I am showing you how I am carving off all of the sides, making sure everything is nice and curved and has a little bit shape to it. Cutting away about half an inch or a little more than half an inch from the edge of the sneaker cake, and then I am using a spoon to scoop out the inner pieces. Because our cake is very cold, I would suggest that you apply ganache in little pieces at a time. So apply the ganache with your offset spatula and then use the flexible smoother to make sure it's nice and smooth because it will set very quickly. As you can see, I just applied my fondant onto my cake. It was a very easy process, so take your time. And then I'm just massaging the fondant down, making sure it's nice and smooth in every little spot. We don't need any folds or cracks or elephant skin. We want this cake and we want this fondant to be as smooth as possible. So I'm basically just using my pointer's tool and just adding a bunch of dots so it looks like a different texture compared to the rest of the fondant. You will be applying the stippling texture around the entire rim and the inside of the sneaker cake. And then putting the tongue in place, making sure it's attached to both sides of the sneaker. Now, because the fondant is very soft, we want the fondant to sit into place, so I will be adding 2 to 3 toothpicks at the back of it. Now I'm just applying the front template onto the sneaker. Off camera, I added a little bit of water onto my cake, so it'll be tacky enough for it to stick on. When it comes to applying this template to the cake, please make sure that the sides of the template are lining up with the edges of the sneaker cake first before you line up the back part of it. So next is one of my favorite parts, the stitching. Oh, we all know I love my stitching. Don't forget, this time would be the best time to have your page number 1 for reference, because on some parts of the cake, we only have 2 lines of stitching, and then other parts, we just have 1 line of stitching. And right now I am making sure that the template sits perfectly on top of template 4 and 5. And then I will be using this wilton tip to make the holds for the laces. Next, we will be using this pointers tool and we will be adding the holds at the front of the sneaker cake. Now, in the industry, I see a lot of bakers put black in this area and whatever color that the shoe is, please do not put any color into these holes. Next, I will be using a measuring tape just to measure the circumference of my cake, which is about 24 inches. So maybe yours will be around the same thing. Next, I will be taking template number 7 and basically cutting out the sole, making sure it's the right shape. Next, I will be taking my icing smoother and just pressing a line into the top of the fondant, because later on, this is where we will be adding our fondant stitches. Next, we will be creating these little notches at the bottom of the sneaker sole. So all I'm doing is just taking my pointers tool and pressing it into the fondant just to give it that realistic look. If you look at the front page of the template package, you will see that the front of the sneaker sole has a texture to it. So all I'm doing is just applying the same stippling technique that we used prior to make this texture. Next, we will be using the extruder to create the threads that we will be adding for the stitching of the sole. In order to create the stitches, I will be using another pointers tool and I will just be adding little holes into the thread, and the final product is basically the stitches that we need for our fondant sole. When cutting the Nike tick for the other side of the sneaker cake, all you have to do is just flip the template on the other side and then cut it out. So right now I'm using a little water and I'm just making the fondant a little tacky, and then I will be applying my Nike tick to both sides of my sneaker cake. Now I'm basically using my fingers to make sure all the sides of the Nike tick is nice and smooth. Next, we will be adding the stitch line on the tick sign. This is the part that will be added to the back of the sneaker where the two tick signs are aligned. So once the two lines are lined up, I will add the letters and making sure they are aligned using a icing smoother. Next, we will add a quick stitch line at the back of the sneaker. Lastly, all we have to do is make sure the area is nice and tacky, and then we will be adding each lace one by one, pinching the two sides and then using the pointers tool to make sure it's poked into the hole so it actually looks like a real lace. And then we're basically lacing the shoe from the bottom straight up to the top, crisscross, crisscross, applesauce. After adding that little detail into that part, we will be painting this silver. So all I did was mix luster dust silver with a little vegetable oil, and it makes like a very thick consistency. So all I did was just paint the top of that, and then later I took out the toothpicks because our tongue is basically set, and I added logos to the cake, and that's about it. Thanks so much for watching this video. See you in the next one.